Hey, everybody. I'm trying to get better. I really am. Happy Wednesday. I wanted to make sure that I got on here to talk about what I've been talking about for the past few weeks. Mental illness, of course, because I have, of course, become an advocate based on my experience and really want to open up to help shed the light. So yes, happy Wednesday, happy hump day. I hope that everyone is having a awesome Wednesday. Um, and yes, I hope that everyone's doing well. So I briefly mentioned the last time I had my video, I talked about that I was referring to everyone in this video as my fireflies. Thanks, Destiny. Destiny sharing or liking. Well, please share too. Hey, Denise. I mentioned last time that Denise, please share and ask anyone to join. Um, I mentioned in my last video that I was referring to everybody in this community that I am starting to build from the ground up as my fireflies, because we know that fireflies come out at nighttime when it's dark. And a lot of time when people feel as though they are battling a mental illness, they feel as though they're in the dark by themselves, they're embarrassed, they don't want to talk about it. And what fireflies do, they bring light into darkness. So that's what we are going to do, and that's how my business coach and I came up with the name Fireflies Unite, because we are the light, and we will bring light into darkness to help shed the light. So today I really wanted to talk about if mental illness, if it had a look. What does mental illness look like, or does it even have a look? Because I think so many times we think that certain people with the mental illness looks a certain way. I think for me, the last time when we were on here, we talked about the Black church, and I'm glancing over because I have notes. Hi, Brandy. The last time we talked about mental illness in the Black church and how it really hinders a lot of people from getting help. And based on my experiences and some of the experiences that the people I have in my circle, the two main reasons were because they thought it would show that they had a lack of faith. They sought out help for a mental illness, or the other thing was that we thought that we could pray everything away. Those were the two main things, because I think while I believe that prayer certainly does work and it helps us get through very difficult moments in our life, sometimes it takes a bit more than prayer to get us through those dark moments in our life. And so today's topic is, what does mental illness look like? Does it even have a look? I think as kids, we learn to never judge a book by its cover. But for some reason, as adults, oh my gosh, we judge everything by its cover. And I don't know why, why we do that. But I truly believe that it just only perpetuates the stigma, and it stops people from wanting to talk about it and to get help. So I wanted to pose a few questions that are written down. And just to get people to really start thinking about it. Is the woman walking down the street is talking to herself? Does she have a mental illness, or is it the person who's always hostile and angry? Does that person has a mental illness? Is it the person who's hearing voices? Does that person have a mental illness, or is the person who's constantly smiling in public and you never actually see that? Jasmine. Or is it the person that you see smiling in public, but behind closed doors, they struggle with self-harm and they cut themselves? Does that person have a mental illness? Or is it a person who's Black, who's white, who's Latino, who's Christian, who's Catholic? Are they famous? Are they homeless? And those are questions that I really wanted to pose, because sometimes we put mental illness in a box as what it can actually look like, when it's people who look just as high functioning as myself. And so a lot of times, I think I asked that question because a lot of times, hey, Jasmine, a lot of times like I said, we have this perception of what it looks like. But a person with a mental illness could be overworked single mother who's stressed out and she's trying to hold it all together, but yet she's too afraid to ask for help, especially Black women, because we have this whole thing of like the strong Black woman, but I think a lot of times we hide behind that, and we're actually hurting. Um, a person with the mental illness, of course, could be a person who's an alcoholic, because we know alcoholism is also a lot of people who battle with alcoholism have a mental illness, or a drug addict could obviously have some type of mental illnesses going on, and a lot of times they try to self-medicate. And I know that is not based on my experience that I have, because I've never used drugs, but my father is someone who has struggled with drugs my entire life, probably since I was born. At least since I was a little girl. I never recall a time my father hasn't used drugs, but just really trying to cope. And there's like really no ashamed, or I'm not ashamed of my story, or it's just simply a part of my experience. And I find that the things that we are afraid to talk about, or we're embarrassed to talk about, when you open up more, it's not a matter of people knowing your business. Because a lot of times we're like, oh, I don't want to go to therapy, or I don't want to tell this person. Of course, you want people to trust you, but at the same time, when you open up and you become vulnerable, it allows for people to see that you're human. And so that's why I really wanted to start doing the Facebook Lives, to just start opening the conversation. And so with mental illness, my business coach came to me, and she shared this link, and she was like, it was actually a former not reality star, a former actress who was on a show. I cannot remember. What I would do after the Facebook Live is actually like put it in the notes, like in the comments, so you guys can go back to it. But basically, a rapper recorded her. I think she was at a gas station, and she obviously had a mental illness, but they were saying that, oh, she was just a crackhead and that she needed to be exposed. She's no longer an actress, and she's basically like fell completely off, and she looked like a completely different person. And when I saw that, I was like a little bothered by it, just because I think so many times, I don't think it's not something that we should make fun of if we see a person who we may consider a crackhead, or a person who's a drug addict, because they started off at one point and now they look a certain way, just because we don't understand them. Or the person was saying that, oh, they don't have a struggle, a mental illness, they just decided to sorry, my email's going off. They decided to just make a bad choice and use drugs. But in reality, Darcia, in reality, the person actually, she did have a mental illness, and I believe it was bipolar disorder. And a lot of people who struggle with bipolar disorder, most of them need medication to help with the chemical imbalance in their brain. And so for her, she stopped taking her medication, and she started using drugs as a way to self-medicate. And when I saw the article, or saw the post, I was like I was really hurt by it, just because I'm like, I think we should be a bit more sympathetic, just to each other, a bit more compassionate, because you never know what somebody is going through. A person could look fine on the outside and still have a mental illness, whether that's schizophrenia, bipolar disorder 1, bipolar disorder 2, PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety, major depressive disorder. It could be a whole slew of mental illnesses, but you would never know. It's just not the person walking down the street talking to themselves. And I that's like probably the biggest thing that I want people to realize, that it's everyday functional people like me and you. And so I actually wanted to go off this article that I wrote. I wrote an article, and it was about celebrities and mental illness. Hey, Ebony. Hey, Erica. I want to make sure I say hi to everybody. I wrote this article, and it was entitled Celebrities and Mental Illness, because a lot of times we see celebrities that they have the money, they have the power, they have the fame, and you're like, there should be nothing wrong with them. Or when we think about, I believe, Robin Williams, when he committed suicide, You could think, oh, this man has so much money. Like, why would he want to commit suicide? Or this person has so much power. They're rubbing shoulders with people that you and I probably dream of. Why would they want to do something to harm themselves or to harm their families? But again, that goes back to, for instance, I'll stick with, in this case, depression, since I was talking about Robin Williams. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain. So sometimes it's not, a person doesn't always have to be depressed because, I think I've said this before, that they've lost a job or a loved one passed away or they went through a breakup. If it's a chemical imbalance in the brain, then it is the way that their brain functions. A lot of time it could be genetic, and it's just the makeup of their brain. So everything could be going right, but they could still feel depressed. So sometimes it has nothing to do with external factors. While external factors can certainly trigger it and sometimes make it worse, that's not always the case. So that's why sometimes when people ask me if I am in a episode, and they'll say like, well, why are you depressed? And sometimes I'll get upset, like, dude, I mean, I really don't know. I mean, it's a chemical imbalance. So it's the way that my genetic makeup and my brain functions. And so in order to keep my brain balanced, I have to do certain things such as work out or practice my different coping strategies. And so I wanted to make sure that I'm tackling everything. So I think it's important that we stop limiting mental illness to a person, like I said, just walking down the street, talking to themselves. And with going back to the article that I actually written, which was on urbanfaith.com, and I'm pulling away a bit so I can share it again for people who may be interested in it. And it's on celebrities. It's called Beyond the Light, Celebrities and Mental Illness. And the celebrities that I actually highlighted were, for instance, Jennifer Lewis, who suffers from depression. Who suffers from bipolar disorder. And one of the things that she said is what it is that you go through this moment when you start feeling like really, really good. And I can't see y'all because I'm reading an article right now. But what it is that you start feeling really good. You want to get off the meds and you want to say like, I'm healthy, I'm doing good, I'm eating this wheatgrass and I can do this on my own. And you want to throw away the medicine. But a lot of times with people who struggle with bipolar disorder, they most likely need the meds for the rest of their life. That's not true for every mental illness, but again, this is going to bipolar disorder. And with her, she was saying that it was triggered by the death of her father. So she wants to also encourage people to seek help. So with bipolar disorder, the cause is unknown, but it's a combination of genetics, environment, and an altered brain structure and chemistry that can play a role. So bipolar disorder is an episode of mood swings ranging from depressive lows to manics. So the symptoms could be like high energy, a reduced need to sleep when they're in their manic modes, and a loss of connection to reality. And then the symptoms of the depressive when they go through the lows is like low motivation, low energy, a loss in daily activities, and this mood can last for days to a month and at a time, and they also might suffer from suicidal thoughts. And that's Jennifer Lewis, who everyone's like, they know who she is. Hey, Precious. A lot of times, a lot of people who may be struggling with this, that's why I really don't, and just speaking on bipolar disorder, it's actually a pet peeve of mine when people say stuff like, I feel like, oh, the weather is so bipolar, or girl, you acting bipolar, or that was bipolar. I had to really, I really started questioning, and people who say that around me start challenging them, because you never want to get to a point where you're offending somebody who struggles with bipolar disorder. And so that's even down to just phrases in general, like when people say that's so gay. I mean, a lot of times we laugh at things like that, but I think in terms of mental illness, it's something that we should take seriously and that we should really pull away sometimes from saying those things, because a person who may be struggling with bipolar disorder, it may prevent them from not getting help or may be embarrassed to talk about it. So with Jennifer Lewis, I mean, we all know her. She plays on Blackish. She has done so many Broadway plays, but despite her illness, she's still thriving. Like, she doesn't let that stop her. Hey, Shanara, she doesn't let that stop her from moving forward in life. So it's still possible to thrive with the mental illness, such as bipolar disorder, but it just takes a little bit more than the average person who may not struggle with the mental illness to actually get through certain stressors in their life. So that was one person who a lot of people didn't know. The other person that I highlighted was actually Disney superstar Selena Gomez, because she struggles with anxiety, panic attacks, depression, and she also deals with lupus and panic disorder. And so what panic disorder is, it's actually a urge of overwhelming like fear and anxiety. Your heart pounds and you feel like you can't breathe. And you may even feel like you're dying or going crazy. And then, like, if it's left untreated, panic attacks can lead to panic disorders and other problems. Depression and actually, she also suffers from depression and anxiety. So depression and anxiety disorders, they are different, but a lot of people with depression often experience symptoms similar to those of anxiety, such as nervousness or problems sleeping or concentrating. And while depression and anxiety, they're separate mental illnesses, and it actually causes a lot of people to, it actually, a lot of people struggle with obviously emotional and behavioral symptoms. And like during Selena Gomez's speech, she said something, and basically she said that she had to stop, because I believe she stopped one of her tours at a time when she was like really struggling with her mental illness. She said because she had everything and she was broken on the inside. And she said she kept it all together where she didn't want to let her fans down, but she didn't want her to let her fans down, but she let herself down. And so she said, I don't want anybody to see any images or bodies on Instagram. I want them to see what's in their heart. And I'm not trying to get validation, nor do I need it anymore. And I think that was a pretty profound statement, that when she said, I had everything and I was absolutely broken inside. A lot of times, hey, Danielle, a lot of times we look at people again on the outside. We think that they have everything because of what we see on social media or what we see as far as like how they may act in person, but not realizing that they may be broken in the inside. And that's why I'm Robin. That's why I'm a huge advocate to tell any and everybody, like, I don't think everybody's different as far as what they may believe in their faith, but I'm a huge advocate for therapy, because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that you're crazy. It simply means that you're working out the issues within yourself. One of the things that I promised myself, that I will not be 40 and 50 years old struggling with the same issues that I had in my 20s because I refused to work on myself. Hey, cousin. Hey, Dominique. Hey, Delisa. That's one of the things that I told myself I would not do. I will not, again, like I said, I will not be in my 40s and 50s struggling with the same stuff I was struggling in my 20s. And that's why I'm a huge component to encourage people to go to therapy to work out those issues. Whether you have a mental illness or not, it can help you cope with everyday stressors. And the last person that I talked about, and I'm trying to see, actually, those were the two people that I talked about in my article. And I will actually share it in the comments now, so all y'all can go back and read and share the article that I wrote. Hold on, I'm sharing it right now. All right, I just shared it. I think that is just really important, just because, like I said, I have been through the same thing, to the point where it's like I said, I couldn't get up in the morning, and I couldn't, and I thought I couldn't push forward. But if you think about those celebrities that I mentioned who struggled with bipolar disorder or the panic disorder or depression or anxiety, if they can get up and they are on a very high platform and they meet so many people, and they kind of have to sometimes maybe put on a face to go do that performance. People who don't have the pressure of the public, I think we have a bit easier, just because we can do a bit more in private. And And so that's why I really wanted to encourage people to stop limiting mental illness to just the person walking down the street talking to themselves, or the person at the gas station asking for change who may be on drugs, because we could be so judgmental as people. And one of the things that I have really been working on with myself is practicing more compassion toward people, because like I said, it's everyday high functioning people like myself that you would never know struggle. Um, and like I said, again, it needs to be taken seriously, just like cancer, just like diabetes, just like, someone has a heart attack, because mental illnesses kill people too, just like those illnesses. So I don't think we should separate one from the other. Again, like going back to what I was saying, does it have a look? Does mental illness have a look? And to answer that question, no, it doesn't. It's the person. If a person is not treated for their mental illness, they could very well end up being like that homeless. I believe that the celebrity who was at the gas station that I think that was going crazy on social media that everybody was sharing. It could be the person. You could very well wind up being that homeless person on the street if you have a mental illness and don't know you have it and don't get treated. So that's really a big thing that I've become an advocate for, because I think I've gotten to the point where like I was tired of hiding or feeling like I couldn't be myself, because people had this perception of who they thought I should be or what I should be. And I'm like, for me, just talking about it, one, is so liberating, because now you can see a person who has someone like, ooh, hey, I gotta fix my hair. Sorry, but someone who is like me, who struggles with the mental illness. But yeah, I have 2 college degrees. Yeah, I'm working on my own business. Yeah, I'm doing all of these things, but it doesn't exempt me from pain. It doesn't exempt, just like it doesn't exempt a person from cancer. And so a person is not exempt from a mental illness either. Just like the body gets sick, the brain gets sick. The brain also gets sick. And so I'm going to continue to be an advocate for mental illness to the day I die, whether it's, like I said, panic disorder, anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, social anxiety, bipolar disorder, PTSD. Like, I'm going to continue to start speaking out about all of it, so we can really remove the stigma away from it. And the last thing I would like to leave you all with, I know some of you probably joined a little late, but you can go back and watch the live from the beginning. I would like to leave you with a quote, and it says, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle." And no, I'm not saying that you should let people walk all over you, or let toxic people stay into your life if they're no good. But what I'm saying is, stop being so quick to take everything so personal. I know, like, for me, a lot of time when I was in my very, very low place, when I was diagnosed, I shut down completely, probably for like a year. I didn't talk to family. I didn't really talk to friends until, like I said, I was forced to get help. And forced by meaning, like, a friend had called the police and they had to come to my house and get me out and take me to the hospital. And I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. So I think one of the things that we really should do is just stop, don't take things so personal, because you never know what a person is going through. So if a person don't respond to a text message or don't call you, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're upset with you. It just could mean that they have a lot, that they have a lot going on, and they may need some time to themselves. And sometimes they may not feel as though you are the best person that they can talk to, because they may feel like they may be judged, or that person may not understand them. Because I know, like, in my experience, I had my core people that I would go to. And certain people, I knew that they were not educated on mental illness. So their response would make me even feel worse, when I was still trying to cope and really understand what it meant to have a mental illness and what my life would look like moving forward. And so also, stop always being so ready to fight and jump down somebody's throat. Just like I said, just like you're dealing with something, so is the next person. So just practice patience, practice being compassionate, And sometimes we just have to take a good look in the mirror, because sometimes we could be the problem, as far as if we may be self-meditating and trying to deal with our mental illness on our own and not even realize that something is there. Like I said, I'm always open for questions, for text messages, or for emailing me, or sending me messages via Facebook if you want to know more about my story or have more questions, or if you need any resources that I can lead you to help you or someone else that you may know that may be struggling with the mental illness. And yeah, that's it, guys. I just want to thank you so much for watching. I tried to keep it short, but again, you guys know me, like I said, and I'm going to keep talking about it, and I'm calling all of you wonderful people my fireflies. Shout out to my business coach, Jaleesa. I said it before, but you weren't on. But yeah, so I'm really excited about what's in the works and just really building Fly Unite from the ground up. Again, I'm Kia, and I am your guide to emotional fulfillment. Bye, guys, and thanks for watching.